Hi, everyone. Welcome to Think, Engage, Thrive, the story about entrepreneurship and sometimes business in general, where we talk to some of the best entrepreneurs, some of the young up and coming entrepreneurs, and get them to give you some understanding of what it takes to be an entrepreneur, what it takes to make a successful business. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. We don't have a guest. I'm going to do something on my own. I want to talk about the retail environment today, which includes e-commerce and Amazon and brick and mortar retail, because there's been a lot of stories that I think need to be addressed. And I also want to go into what I think going into 2024, the e-commerce world and the brick and mortar retail world are going to look like. So usually we have a guest, but it's actually Halloween. And for some reason, a lot of entrepreneurs have kids. They couldn't do the show. We do the show live, so we don't pre-record it, which that sometimes causes an issue, but for the most part, it's okay. And I don't mind doing them without a guest every once in a while. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this. Just stick with it for a little while. We're going to go through a little bit about what's happened this year, because we've heard a lot about some big companies going bankrupt and disappearing. And then we've heard about some smaller companies disappearing. And why is that? I want to talk about it because they were startups at one point. They were started by entrepreneurs at one point. And so therefore the story is relevant as to what's happening and why it's happening. And then we're going to look at a couple of trends for 2024. There, some of them you're familiar with, but what's going to happen in the future and what's going to become more relevant. So let's get started. The first thing I want to address is this Amazon FTC lawsuit. Now, I'm going to preface this. I don't want you to think that I am a defender of Amazon. Amazon can defend themselves all they want. I am a seller on Amazon. I have been a seller, and we help other sellers, brands, not resellers, brands. Let me clarify that. We don't really work with people who sell other people's products. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that's a detriment and part of the problem with why this lawsuit is happening. But I think, but I do want to say that some of the information is really not fair, because I think Amazon is being penalized for how the customer has attached themselves to it. So let me just talk about it. So I've got the FTC documents up, and they're saying that Amazon is anti-competitive, right? They punish sellers and deter other online sellers from offering prices lower than Amazon, keeping prices higher for products across the internet. If Amazon discovers that a seller is offering a lower price goods elsewhere, Amazon can bury discounting sellers so far down in Amazon search results that they become effectively invisible. When Amazon and you agree to this when you sign up to be a seller, Amazon is going to offer the lowest price. So if you're a seller and you have a product, I sell, I don't care. I sell radios. I sell computers, and my computer sells on Amazon for $1,200, but I put it on Walmart for $1,100, Walmart.com. Then yes, Walmart is going to say, "Hey, why am I selling it for $1,200 and they're selling it for $1,100?" They don't bury it. They give you a warning and say you have a choice. You can either put the price down to $1,100, or we're not going to allow it. But it's Amazon's website. That would be like if you owned a website and you said, my rules for running my website are X, and the sellers on your website broke the rules. You have every right to take action. Now, do I agree with it? Do I agree with trying to always be the lowest price? No, because the economics on Walmart.com versus Amazon.com are completely different, right? But I do believe that Amazon has a right to do what they're doing, and I don't think it's anti-competitive. It's there. You're a guest selling on that site. Amazon is allowing you to sell to their customers. So I don't see it as anti-competitive because there's other sellers out there that are going to be lower. There's always going to be somebody lower or somebody higher. So I don't think it artificially inflates prices. I think what it actually does is lowers prices. And that to me is one of the criticisms of Amazon, is that from a seller's perspective, we always have to push the retail price down. That is now from an entrepreneurial perspective and a business startup perspective. That is why you always want to build a brand. If you're a reseller and you're selling Crest toothpaste, everybody in the world is selling Crest toothpaste, you're going to wind up pushing your prices down so much that you're probably not going to make any money. But to me, I don't really care. I think resellers should go away on that site. But that's just my own personal opinion. But you always want to focus on a brand, because if you're building a brand and you created this water, sparkling water, right? You created it. It's got your brand on it. Nobody else can sell it. Nobody else sells it. You don't allow anybody else to sell it. So you can name your price. And you're not going to, Walmart's not going to say, I mean, Amazon's not going to say, lower your price on that product. You're building a brand. You're building loyalty, right? You're getting customers to attach to that brand. So that's why brand building, when you're doing a startup, when you're starting your company up, you always have to think about, I'm building a brand, not selling products. Selling products and building a brand are two entirely different things. If you're focused so much on selling your products, you're missing the fact that you're building a brand and what your brand stands for. So the other piece is, they got criticism for conditioning sellers' ability to obtain prime eligibility for their products, a virtual necessity for doing business on Amazon. Well, yes and no. In the consumer's mind, Prime is better because Amazon's trained the consumer. So they're not pushing sellers to get Prime. They're pushing because the consumer is pushing, looking for Prime. So if there are 3 or 4 sellers of the same product, one is on Prime and 3 others aren't, the customer is going to buy the Prime. It's not Amazon's fault. They've created an environment where that happens. Again, I'm not defending Amazon. I'm just saying they've trained the customer and the customer looks for it. So, the biggest thing about this whole piece is that without the customer, Amazon has nothing. So what has Amazon really done? Amazon has built a machine that the customer loves, right? Everybody has the app on their phone, or I think the last number I saw was 92% of the buying population in the United States has the app on their phone. 61% of consumers look on Amazon first when they want to buy something. Is that Amazon's fault, or have they done a really good job of building customer relationships? I think they've done a good job of building customer relationships. Is that bad? Not really. If you're a seller, it's a good thing. If you're a brand builder, it's a good thing. If you're a reseller and there's a lot of competition for your products, it's a bad thing. But okay, but I'm not so sure that whether or not any of these points are legitimate. Um, you know, Degrading the customer experience by replacing relevant organic search results with paid advertisements. I mean, Amazon sells ads on their site. They always have. I don't see how. Have they increased junk ads, as it says, that frustrates customers? I don't like ads, but they're a necessity, right? You have to run ads to get people to see your product, but it's no different than any site you go on today with ads everywhere, right? If you look at our Crunch Growth site, we've got some statistics on the first video where I think we're exposed to 50,000 ads per day. And on social media, to me, social media has done a worse job with putting junk ads up because there's no control over it. Amazon's putting ads up for products that they sell. You can't run ads on Amazon for products that you don't sell. So if a guy who's got an inferior product runs an ad, well, the customer's going to look and they're going to see the reviews and they're not going to buy it, whether he runs ads or not. But I think that there's more junk ads on social media today than there are on Amazon. Biasing Amazon search results to preference Amazon's own products over that Amazon knows are better quality. This brings up, I got interviewed by a company or by a news site about a month ago about I've heard this I've heard this complaint since I first started selling on Amazon in 2006, that you're going to build a product on Amazon and they're going to see how well it sells and they're going to go out and replicate it and they're going to put you out of business. Okay. And I have heard that, and I don't believe it because I've never seen it happen, because I've built brands on Amazon. And if I've sold razors on Amazon, for example, and they have their own private label razor. But private label has been around in brick and mortar retail since the beginning of time. Every supermarket has their own private label mouthwash that looks like Listerine. They've got their own private label olive oils and private label um, pasta sauces and private label meats and cheeses and everything, right? Private label. It's been around forever. Now, do you get advertisements to say go and try our new our private label cans of beans? If you've ever had a ShopRite by you where they do the can sale every year, it's all ShopRite products. So, so to me, I'm confused by this because private label has been around forever. And so why is it? So if Amazon has private label, they've never put anybody out of business that I can tell. And if they did, where are all the lawsuits? Because if they did that, there'd be lawsuits, and there aren't. There was one once, and it got tossed out because it was frivolous. So, and again, I'm not defending Amazon. I'm not defending them. But what I am saying is, look at the facts. You know, if I get my product, let's say that I have this water again, right? And I put it into, I get it into supermarket chain, big supermarket chain, Albertsons or Safeway across the country. Okay. Safeway's got their own private label water. So do I say, and they advertise it. So do I go and sue them and call the FTC and say, you know, I have private label water. I have water and they have private label and they're putting theirs in their ads. No, doesn't make any sense to me. So, you know, I'm not so sure that I agree with it. I think if they were going to go after Amazon for other things, there's a lot of other things you could go after them for that aren't addressed in this FTC complaint. The other one is charging costly fees on the hundreds of thousands of sellers that currently have no choice but to rely on Amazon to stay in business. These fees range from a monthly fee sellers must pay for each item sold, advertising fees that have become a necessity for sellers to do business, and you combine all of these fees, they force many sellers to pay close to 50% of their total revenues to Amazon. Okay, nothing is free. If I only have my website and I don't sell on Amazon, okay, I have to run ads, and those ads are going to be expensive. I'm going to run ads on Google. I'm going to run ads on Meta. I'm going to run ads. So on Amazon, in my experience, the Amazon ads are actually more effective and efficient than running off platform, because Amazon is a selling platform and they want to sell more product. So you can get a little bit more efficient. Selling fees for fulfilled by Amazon, yeah, they're acting as a third-party logistics house. They're taking your product, they're pack, shipping your product for you. Now, if you were doing that yourself, you'd have to pay for a warehouse. You'd have to put people in there, and you would have to hold your inventory, which costs money. So it's sort of a wash. You're paying it here or you're paying it there. So it's not excessive. Now, there are some excessive fees in that Amazon. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Amazon. They nitpick you. They nickel and dime you. There are a constant barrage of short-term, long-term fees that come into play. Price of fuel goes up. They put a fuel surcharge on things. The holidays come, you're paying a holiday surcharge. I don't think that those are fair. I think that it's excessive. Those to me are what you should be going at them about. But when you have a product, and again, this is a lesson, and I talk to all entrepreneurs about this, especially in consumer products. If you have a product and you're developing it, you better understand the economics of your product and your business before you start selling. Too many times we've seen it with established companies where they don't understand the economics of their business. They don't understand the economics of their product. So if you're going to sell in a channel, whether it's the retail channel, right? There are some things that happen in the retail channel, brick and mortar, that are far excessive than what Amazon does, right? If you want to get your product into a supermarket, you're going to pay slotting fees. That's just the fee you're going to pay to get your product into their warehouse. Then you're going to pay advertising fees to get on their circular that everybody gets in the mail. You're going to pay for end caps. You're going to pay for product placement, things like that. So everybody, this existed not just on Amazon, it exists everywhere, right? If I want to put my product on somebody else's website, they're going to charge me for it. So you have to understand the economics of where you're going, because too many times we've seen clients of ours that want to go into e-commerce, but they don't understand the economics. And then when they start, they get into a situation where they go, we're losing money. You're losing money because you didn't engineer your product correctly. So you have to really engineer your product from the get-go. And again, this is a startup point. Okay. If you're selling a product, again, let's just say I'm selling this water. I had better know what the cost of that bottle is, what it costs to fill that bottle, what it costs to put it on a pallet, what it costs to ship it to me, get it to where the point where I'm ready to sell. Then what's it going to cost me to pick, pack, ship that product out the door? All those things I better know before I put that product for sale. And before I even put that product into production, I have to know all those, because I have to determine if I have to sell that bottle of water for $8 in order to make money, then hang it up, because you're never going to get there. So, and this is one of the criticisms that I have about people who start up in and don't think through. They think that, and again, they think that volume will compensate for that. I had a conversation. Amazon does Prime Day in July, and then they just did another one in October, in the beginning of October, and they're really good. They're really good selling days. You can sell a lot of product and a lot of merchandise. And I had one person who was selling, and they came to me for advice ahead of time. They said, how far ahead should I really be in talking about my product or figuring out what product to sell for the next Prime Day? And I said, right after the first Prime Day, because you take a look at your Prime Day sales and you look at all your costs involved in selling, what your advertising costs were, what your listing costs were, the cost of freight to move it, your shipping costs, everything, and figure out what you're going to do for next year, what your volume is going to be, and then work with your manufacturer to say, look, I barely made money. I need to figure out how to squeeze 10% out of my supply chain somehow. And that you got a whole year to work through that with them, right? And then you can say, this is the volume I did. I think I can do more if I can lower the price, or I can do more if I can, whatever it is, figure out your supply chain. So I had this one guy who was working with, young entrepreneur. He developed his own product, and he did really good sales on Prime Day. And he came to me afterwards, and he said to me, this is how much I spent on ads. This is how much I spent on the cost of my product. This is how much I spent on warehousing it and then shipping it into Amazon. And we put it all together. And I said, it looks like for next year, you have to figure out how to get 15% out of your supply chain, because it looks like you did a right thing in terms of getting volume, but you lost money. He's like, no, I didn't lose money. And he had some rationale. And I said, but if you take all these things and you put them together, here's the cost of your product, here's what your sell price was, cost of your product, your freight in, your freight out, and your warehousing costs and all associated costs, and then your advertising costs, it looks like you lost money. Not dramatically, but you lost a couple of $1,000s. And he said, no, but I made it up in volume. And I went, if you lose money, if you're losing money on the individual sale, you're losing money on the volume too. So that equation never works. And people, I think, do believe that they're going to make money when the volume goes up. And in some cases, you will. If you make a small amount on an individual item and the volume goes up, then you make a bigger amount as the volume goes up. But you have to make a profit on that first sale. So that's my point about Amazon. So again, I like Amazon for building brands, but do I put all my eggs in that basket? No. Amazon to me is another customer acquisition channel. I look at it the same way as I do any other advertising platform. Selling on Amazon is very, very hard. Being able to break through the clutter, being able to to, to get through and sell your product to the consumer, make that consumer attached to your product so that they'll go to your website. It's very, very difficult. And I'm on a couple of groups on social media, LinkedIn, and some other places with Amazon sellers that have built brands and big businesses too. And we look at these ads that these guys run about, you can set up your own side gig selling on Amazon. I did it and I made millions of dollars. Let me tell you something, folks. Don't ever do it, because you're either committed to it or you're not. Selling on Amazon is hard work. There is no such thing as an easy side gig. Well, you buy the product from us and then we help you sell it. If they're buying the product, if you're buying the product from them, they're making money, you're not. So don't ever get fooled by those ads that say, and they're all over social media. Don't get fooled by them saying, I will set you up in Amazon as a side gig. It's hard work. Just like running your e-commerce site is hard work. Just like getting your product into brick and mortar, it's hard work. And you have to be smart about it and you have to spend your money wisely. There is no easy solution to being successful selling product. There isn't. You can have a product that really clicks and takes off like a hockey stick. That's great, but that's hard work too. It didn't just get there. You did something to make that happen. You did something to break through. And now that you're ramping up, we had Joe Rothley on, who did Greenies, and he talks about how his product took off. Greenies, if you're a dog lover, I'm sure you've used them, but go back and watch the Joe Rothley shows, because he talks about when he did it, and he and his wife started up, and he has a great couple. He calls themselves couplepreneurs or something, and great guy. It's a really, really enjoyable watch. But those took off like a hockey stick, and he still, for the first, I think he said 3 or 4 years, they didn't take a salary, and they were trying to weave through this hockey stick of growth. Because when you're growing, you still need capital, you still need to buy more inventory, you still need to place more ads, you still need to do a lot more work. So don't ever let anybody tell you that something is easy, because if it's too good to be true, then it's not true. So, but Amazon especially is hard work. But I like Amazon from that perspective. I don't put all my eggs in the basket. I'm not somebody who's defending Amazon, but I do like it from building a brand, because you get exposure to all the customers that are out there. And if you do your job right, you'll get those customers over to your website, and then they'll become loyal to you. So it's really a question of getting out there. Plus, there's great SEO juice for it. So enough said about Amazon. Now I want to talk about a couple of bankruptcies this year, and I want to talk about why. The big one was Bed Bath and Beyond. Everybody is saying, oh, it was killed by, e-commerce, or it was killed by this. It wasn't. At one point in time, Bed Bath and Beyond was a startup back in 1971, and they had a concept to sell, the products that they sold, household goods. And somewhere along the way, management just got lazy. They stopped looking at what's happening around them. They started to be complacent about their stores, and they totally missed what the consumer was doing. And the consumer pattern changed. The consumer said, why should I go to a store to buy this Hamilton Beach mixer blender? Or why should I go to a store to buy these towels? What Bed Bath & Beyond should have been doing the whole time was what most of the retailers have done, like the Targets of the world, like the Walmarts of the world, was to build some sort of a robust e-commerce platform to sell in omnichannel, right? But their eggs were so far in that basket of building stores that they lost sight of it. So now they go, and then the second piece was, and you can look this up, there was a little bit of mismanagement on the financial side, and I think in the last 2 or 3 years. You can look that up yourself, but when you look at it, it wasn't e-commerce that killed Bed Bath and Beyond. It was a lack of e-commerce, or a lack of a focus on the customer. And 90% of the time, that's really what kills a business, right? I'm all for local businesses. I'm all for downtown businesses. I'm all for unique businesses, brick and mortar, online, whatever it is. But when I hear businesses go out of business, and I study it, I really want to know. I really want to understand it because it helps me to coach young entrepreneurs when I can show them some mistakes that people make. It helps me to coach entrepreneurs that are scaling or businesses that are scaling. It helps me to really ask questions of businesses and business owners because when you generally when I see a business that goes under, I see a lack of connection with the customer anymore. Jenny Craig, another one that went out of business, 40 plus years that it was in business. It lost its purpose. The whole business was predicated, the whole business model was predicated on going into a Jenny Craig salon store, physical store. Well, the customer stopped doing that, right? They didn't want to do that anymore. But Jenny Craig, rather than adjust their model, they thought they could figure out how to force it, right? If you go back, I'm going to go back to Amazon for a minute because again, I'm a student of business history. And if you read, there's a great book on Amazon. Oh gosh, I can't remember it's anyway, it was a bestseller for a while. But if you read that book, Amazon was really on the edge of success of failure. It was really on the edge of failure. And this was the early 2000s. And first, they cut a deal with Toys R Us, where Toys R Us was actually paying Amazon to manage Toys R Us's e-commerce business. So they didn't understand e-commerce. Amazon was doing it. So they were paying Amazon a significant amount of money, significant. And Amazon was running the business. And then a couple of years later, Toys R Us didn't want to do it. So they sued to get essentially their website back. But it didn't matter because Amazon already had the customers, right? Amazon already had the customer list because they were servicing them. So you can and you know the story with Toys R Us, they're gone. Borders Books, Borders Books actually, and Amazon started selling online books. The CEO of Borders Books in like 2002, I think it was, or 2003, somewhere around there. Again, Amazon was close to bankruptcy. They weren't making it. And the CEO of Borders Books he didn't want all the costs associated with e-commerce on his books anymore. So they essentially gave their e-commerce business to Amazon because they thought it's just always going to be in the stores. Circuit City, another one, always going to be in the stores. Well, it didn't. They weren't paying attention to where the customer was moving to, and they weren't paying attention to the threat of Amazon and what was happening. So they gave their business to Amazon. And then we all know what happened to Borders Books. They're gone. So a lot of times businesses go because they're not paying attention to the change or the shift in customers. And you always have to look at that. Whether you're starting a business, you're looking at shifts in customers because you're trying to see where they're going so you can be there ahead of time. Or if you're in a business and it's thriving, you want to make sure that it continues to thrive. You want to make sure that you got a handle on what your customers are doing, right? So again, Jenny Craig went out of business again because they they lost sight of the customer. The customer didn't want to go into a Jenny Craig store for something that they could do online. Everybody says, "Oh, well, they went out of business because of this whole push on Ozempic." That's not true. That's a new thing, Ozempic. The Jenny Craig went out of business because 3, 4, 5 years ago, the customer started shifting and they did nothing about it. That's why they went out of business. Um, Another one was Tuesday Morning, another retailer. Again, it, they lost sight of the customer. Customer shifted. There's nothing Tuesday Morning was selling that a customer couldn't get online more conveniently, whether even if it wasn't from Amazon. Another one that filed was Hire Car. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's sort of in the sharing economy where you can lease out your car or let somebody rent your car, and it hasn't done well. It filed for bankruptcy. A car company picked it up. But when you think about it, you think about your own behavior, and you think, am I going to lend somebody my car so they can go and do Uber rides, or am I going to let somebody rent my car so they can go out and make money on Uber? I'm not so sure I would. Um, I know that there are some people that did it, obviously, and there are some people that would do it. But to me, it's almost like I don't think I'd rent my house out. Maybe I would buy a house to rent out for, for one of these sharing economy type things, but I would never use my own house to do it. So, but that's just me. So I don't think they got enough people to do it, and so they filed for bankruptcy. And then you have on the cusp of filing for bankruptcy, we've been hearing a lot about it. You've got Rite Aid, um, another drugstore, right? You've got Rite Aid against CVS and against Walgreens, but not only that, every supermarket chain now pretty much has a pharmacy in it. Every Walmart's got a pharmacy in it, I believe. Um, Target's got pharmacies in it. So where is Rite Aid positioned in all that? Where are they positioned to take care of the customer? If the customer is being serviced by other people, again, it all goes back to the customer. If you've built a business and you built a healthy business and you built a relationship with the customer, then you have nothing to worry about. But when there's cracks in your business, it always comes back to I'm not treating my customer right. Right? It always comes back to the customer. So, and again, I go that was my point with Amazon. Amazon has built this relationship up with the customer. They've obviously locked in the customer, right? We all use the app. We all buy from Amazon. So you're going to, I think they did a good job in that respect. Again, not defending them. There's a lot of things that I don't like about doing business on Amazon. Um, but in reality, they've got the customer, and nobody's going to be able to take that away from them or replicate it, right? And you can't really criticize them for that. So let's let's now focus on the future. What's happening in the future? E-commerce, because if you're going to start an e-commerce business today, or you're going to start a brick and mortar business, where you're selling into brick and mortar, if you're going to start selling a product, I don't care if it's, a SaaS product, software as a service product. I don't care if it's a physical product. You need to understand what's happening, right? And so today, the big piece that let me share my screen with you. The big piece that I see with this is that I see um, a lot of I see a lot of focus on um, augmented reality. Now we had Balti Virtual on back a while ago, and they're the ones who did this kind of thing. Now, this is what they did for Under Armour. So Under Armour makes shoes for, you know, all kinds of athletes. And what they did was they created an app that's augmented reality, not virtual reality, augmented reality. It's a big difference. And you scan it, and then it does uh, all these different things. And so that sells product because it becomes interesting, right? It becomes interesting to the consumer. It's interactive. You can do things with it, like you can highlight. Um, let me let me bring up a different view of sort of what they do. This is something that they did for another company. Um, This is for Northrop Grumman, and when you look, you can see um, using an iPad, all these different pieces to a car. Now, these guys are doing it with both virtual reality and augmented reality. Um, Augmented reality is a little bit easier. You see, the guy with the iPad is augmented reality. The guys with the headsets is virtual reality. So you you can use these tools to show your product and show your product in different uses. Today, if you're buying furniture, Wayfair has a tool on there, augmented reality, where you can put the product into a room in your house. We've all seen that type of thing. Here's another great um, great way to um, sell um, sell your product. Here, I apologize for all this jumping around, but I I have to find, yeah. So this is another great tool, right? This is virtually trying on makeup. I'm sure you've all seen this. Warby Parker has it where you can try on the eyeglasses, but here you can try on makeup and lipstick and things like that, right? Which is, again, try before you buy. And what is this really doing? Well, what it's really doing is taking customers out of the brick and mortar environment and allowing them to have the brick and mortar experience of trying things on in their house. Now, is brick and mortar ever going to go away? No, it's going to change. Customers are going to change. There are still customers who are going to want to go, and there are still customers that are going to shop omnichannel. They're going to go to a Sephora, they're going to go in there and they're going to try things on, but they're also going to try things on at home, right? Fashion, makeup, jewelry, furniture, etc. So why is this important? Well, it's important because if you're building a website, the costs of augmented reality and the cost of these tools are dropping daily. It's like when we first started with PCs and the cost was astronomical, and now the cost has gone down so much, right? Phones in the beginning were expensive, and now they've come down a bit. But these are important because you want to sort of build those into your environment. This engagement is allowing you to build a relationship with your customer. If you have it and your competitor doesn't have it, you're going to have a leg up. That's a competitive advantage, a competitive weapon. So, um, and when you look at places like Shopify, Shopify has an augmented reality piece that you can install on your site. So if you have a product that warrants it, if you're selling furniture, if you're selling fashion, if you're selling beauty products, if you're selling things like that, you want to take advantage of this. And I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The second piece is we hear a lot about AI. We hear a lot about AI, right? And people, I think, are somewhat confused by all the press as to what it does. It's going to take over. It's going to take over our minds. It's going to take over life. There's the bad part about it is that you can create some sort of manipulated images and manipulated content. There are ways to do where I can talk into AI and it can replicate my voice, and you'll hear my voice. I could probably do this entire. I could probably do an interview with somebody, and it would be totally using AI. We use it to build content. We use it to build. Written words, written content. Anybody who uses Grammarly today is using AI. Anybody who's using Alexa, anybody who's using uh, what's Hey Siri is using AI, right? I just said Hey Siri.
Okay.
Yeah,
I found this on the web for its using AI. Check it out.
I said I just said that. Shouldn't have said it. Anyway, that's funny, but that's all, and today, even with Google, right, you've got the ability to um, you've got the ability to um, search using uh, search using voice, right? I'm sure you've all used it, right? You've used it on, but there's this little microphone um, that uh, you can talk into Google, so you can do it from your computer, right? That's AI. So when you think about your website, um, when you think about your website, you think about building your website, you want to take advantage of some of these tools because they're becoming more popular. People are starting to use them. There's apps that are less expensive, and it makes things easier for the customer. And why do customers like some of the websites out there that they get attached to? Because they make it easy. They make it easy for them to find their products. They make it easy for them to personalize. So I think I think that we're going to see more augmented reality going into 2024 on websites. You're going to start to see more and more uses of it. You're going to see more and more uses of AI tools like voice recognition. And you can put that on your website today. So for voice search. The other thing that's going to be big, I think, I'm not a fan of crypto. Don't get me wrong. I don't understand it. I've got a master's degree in business and finance. To me, I don't understand it. But I will say that more and more people are getting into it, and to me, it's dangerous right now. My personal feeling is it's dangerous because you hear about all these crypto places that have gone, bankrupt, or it's just your crypto has disappeared, your Bitcoin or whoever has disappeared. But I think that what you're going to start to see is more and more websites taking crypto as a form of payment. Once the pricing stabilizes, once there becomes some order in crypto, I think you're going to start to see people, websites, Amazon's, PayPal, you're going to start to see them allowing crypto to be used. So, again, from a business perspective, from a perspective of I'm building a business today and I'm building a website, you want to be aware of these things because you want to build them in and be prepared for them for your website. You don't want to be left behind. The other thing, which I think is personally, I think is I can't wait when it starts, because one of the biggest problems when you in e-commerce today, the biggest costs is shipping your product to the consumer, because every year that cost does not go down, that cost goes up, and it's costly. And when you start thinking about the ability to deliver packages with drones, okay, that to me is a game changer. And it's not just Amazon. I know we hear a lot about Amazon Prime Air, right, where they've gotten clearance back in 2020 from the FAA to fly drones, and they just came out with something that they're doing with medicine. I think they're going to deliver your prescriptions first via drone, which I think would be really cool. But UPS actually is ahead of Amazon in terms of using drones to deliver packages. So I think that's a game changer. I think it's going to speed up delivery, number one. Number two, it's going to lower the costs of shipping, because e-commerce costs of shipping it's literally one of the biggest costs. And in some cases, when you just think about it fundamentally. And this goes back to what I said earlier, which is you always have to understand the economics of your product before you go into it. So let's say that I created, again, this bottle of water, and I'm going to ship this bottle of water, and that bottle of water sells for $20. Well, the lowest price I'm going to get for shipping is probably $5.50, maybe. It's maybe more, maybe $6, but $5.50. So that's over 25% of the cost of the retail value of my product, just in shipping. And then I've got to market it, and I've got to warehouse it, and I've got to do all these other things. I've got to buy it. So that's why I'm saying you have to understand the economics of your business. Shipping is never free, and it's not. I know one company that we worked with at Crunch Growth that thought that they could ship products for $3, $2.50, and in reality, it was more like $8 and $9, and they were totally blown away by how much it would cost to ship their product. And their product was glass. It was heavy. It required more packing material, so therefore that increased the bulk of the package. Certainly, if you're shipping small, thin packages, less than 3/4 of an inch, you can get a low price on shipping, CDs, things like that, because there's rates for that if you can go through the automated machines. But once you start getting into bulk packages, very difficult to get lower prices. So I think that, to me, delivery drones is going to be a game changer, and I just can't wait for that. So again, we're talking about augmented reality. It's going to continue to get bigger and better, and I think it's going to get more usage. AI, I think there's going to be some real leaps in 2024 as far as the ability to use it on smaller websites, startups, Shopify, WooCommerce, those types of sites. I think crypto. I think you're going to start to see the PayPals of the world in 2024, and some of the payment systems being able to take crypto. You can now, in some cases. I think Shopify Payments allows it to a certain extent, but nobody really uses it because it's not really a fluid payment system. And it's also the price fluctuations. I think delivery drones are going to start to be used more and more. They're being used today, but I think more and more we're going to see it. Um, Voice search, which we just talked about, again, that's part of AI, but it's also voice search in and of itself. I think you're going to be able to. There's a lot of apps out there now that you can install on a Shopify site or a WooCommerce site to help you with that. And when you have a lot of products, then voice search becomes really, really helpful and necessary. If you're talking about a product line of 150 to 200 to 300 items, that's hard for a customer to get through. And then the last thing is video. Video is never going to decrease. Right now, customers, I just saw a statistic that 65%, I think, of customers would rather watch a short video of a product than read a product page, which, think about that. You think about all that text that's on a page, which we do for SEO purposes, but you think about that, and that's not really as good as a video selling. So you're probably going to see both. But when you look at, again, Amazon product pages today are very video focused. We do a lot of video work in Crunch Growth with social media, and for websites, and for explainer videos, ads. It's all becoming much more video focused. So if you're sitting there with the traditional way of doing things with imagery and text, you want to sort of think about the future and how the customer is using you, because again, if you have it and your competitor doesn't, then the customer is going to go to you. I never obsess over my competition. I only obsess over customers. I don't pay a lot of attention to my competition. I pay attention to customers. And if I can stay focused on customers with a business, then I'll always be okay. Because I don't want to, if I focus on my competitors too much, I want to blow my brains out because I always think they're doing this better or this better. But if I focus on what the customer wants and the customer needs and where the customer's headed, because that's really what you're trying to do. You're always trying to stay ahead of the customer. Then I think you'll always be okay. So that's really it. We're as far as where I think in 2024 we're going to be looking at, because again, from what we do, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Yes, I've built businesses, and yes, I continue to look for businesses to build for ourselves. But we're also a service agency. We manage ads, we manage websites, we manage social media. We do all kinds of things for our customers, for our clients, and we always want to be on the cutting edge of understanding it for them, just as we do for AI. Because I can't tell you how many clients come to us and go, "Can you explain to us what AI is and what we should be using it for?" And we always go to them and say, "Well, we've been using it for you. We've been setting it up on your sites for for your for a lot of different things that you do." AI is built into email platforms today. It's built into, obviously, Grammarly. Every website, um, process like Shopify or WooCommerce or any of those platforms. That's what I was trying to say, platforms. Any of those platforms have some sort of AI built into it. Even Amazon today, when you're setting up an item on Amazon, there's a little AI in there to help you build your product listings and make them good. So I think those are really the keys to what I think is going to happen in 2024, because those are the things that we're focused on. Those are the things we're focused on for our clients, and those are the things we're focused on for ourselves. And if we come across a business, then obviously use that. So next week we've got a couple of next week, and then the week after we've got a couple of interesting guys on. One guy next week is going to be on talking about how he runs his business through outsourcing. Everything's outsourced, and so, which is an interesting model, because then you as an owner are, there's an old saying about, are you working on your business or are you working in your business? And a lot of times people get confused, but working in your business is every day you're sitting there and you're doing the work. Working on your business is thinking about the future and where you can take it. So the beauty of what this guy is doing is he outsources everything. So his business is really being run and he has to manage those people, but it keeps him focused on working on his business, not in his business. So um, those are, that's some good, it should be an interesting discussion. But again, let's, I have this um, free startup planning guide. It's very simple to go to my site, philmasiello.com. You click on this, and then you just put in your name and your email. I'm not a robot. Submit it, and you'll get an email with it's a PDF, and you'll be able to fill it out. It asks you questions and helps guide you through that process. So again, don't there's no cost to it. It's not gonna there's nothing that's going to happen other than it's going to help you if you are in the process of thinking about starting a business, planning to start a business. um, the reason I did it was because there's a lot of tools out there for startup planning, but I found them all to be cumbersome and not focused on the right things. This focuses on the right things, and you'll notice when you do it, when you use it, it's a lot of it's focused on the customer. I'm a big advocate of staying focused on customers, because if you stay focused on your customer, then you're going to understand where the market's going. So um, again, it's a great tool. Give it a shot. You know, so it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed giving you my thoughts on all these, and you can always look at this, watch these videos on E360 or on YouTube or Amazon Fire. They're all over the place. So take a look at it and give me some feedback on what you like, what you don't like. And we're going to continue to bring bigger and better entrepreneurs to the table, guys that have built some really good businesses that you'll know, and try and give you as much information as you can on how to be successful as an entrepreneur. We're not charging anybody for anything. That's not what we're all about. I do a lot of mentoring for young entrepreneurs, and our goal is to really get people to stop paying for those silly courses that are done by guys that have never started up anything, but they read a book and they're just out there to take money. And we're not all about that. It's the same as the guys that'll teach you how to sell on Amazon. Or let me tell you something again, selling on e-commerce, selling to brick and mortar, developing a business, it's hard work. If anybody tries to make it easy and charges you money to do it, they don't know what they're making the money, right? You're not going to make the money. I knew somebody who paid $10,000 for a course on how to sell on Amazon, and they were so turned around. They had no concept of what to do. And then they came to us to help them. And unfortunately, from a business perspective, we had to charge them because, Crunch Growth charges to set people up on Amazon, set brands up and manage them. We do social media, we do run ads, we do all that stuff for a fee, but we're not charging you excessive. We're actually probably less expensive than most agencies that are out there. Anyway, thanks again for staying with me tonight. Thanks again for hearing what I have to say, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.